Hey everyone, you're tuned into InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy. Join us as we talk about anything.
And everything.
All the stuff that makes life interesting.
So let's get to it. What's up everybody and welcome to InfoQuench. I'm your host Jeff.
And I'm Amy, and this episode is all about nostalgia. We're going to take a trip down memory lane and reminisce about our childhoods and all the things many of us used to do, and maybe we don't do any longer. Maybe some of us are still holding on to those tried and true traditions. But before we get into it, we want to chat a little bit about our new equipment.
We got some new equipment. Yeah.
New podcasting equipment. It only took us episode 93 to move away from this awkward mic
that kept coming down on us because the weight of the microphone was just, it was too much. Because the stand was too cheap.
It was. It was just too cheap.
But Amy did, she's never done research before, but she decided to go online and look up for one of these clamp
engineering
booms.
Masterpiece. I can't believe how well it moves. I have no idea how this thing works, but we also got a shock mount, which should do wonders for our relationship because I won't have to give Jeff the
stink eye.
The stink eye every time he hits the desk. So we're hoping our sound quality is going to be up to next level.
A little better, yeah. We're going to do a little bit more with our audio tweaking as well to try and get a little bit more of less of an echoey sound. It's not that bad, but anyways, we are always looking out for you.
We're just perfectionists.
We're always looking out for you, loyal listeners. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. It really means a lot to us. We've seen an uptick in our listenership, and it's been amazing for us, really. It's just like,
Thanks for everybody for spreading the word, and we're going to jump into this. So
nostalgia.
We started thinking about just different things, and one of the things that came to mind for me, and maybe this is true of your families, but our family always had a vat or a mug. A vat.
Yeah, we talked about this one.
A mug of bacon fat.
We talked about this one. I'm certain that people still do that.
I think so. Well, what was strange about it is our family did refrigerate it, so we had a lot of what would happen is we would cook bacon and we would drain off the fat and save it in a mug.
Yeah.
And we used it for everything, frying everything back up, or I know my grandmother used it. She would rub it on the crusts of her homemade bread to make the bread softer.
I've even done that in this house. I've saved the bacon. I've saved bacon fat in about.
I thought you just let it congeal so that you could throw it out without making a mess or not wanting to.
That is what I did with it. Yeah, I didn't cook with it like a lot of other people.
But I mean, I think people used to. Maybe that's before we knew about all the the badness of.
That is something that we used to do though, and we used to do not to go on. Change subjects, but do you remember those little mustard glasses that had the hearts and the spades and the clubs on them?
Playing cards.
I forget which mustard it was now, but they used to be.
You're right.
Very
I
prevalent.
had one of those glasses up until not too long ago.
You can still find them here and there somewhere,
Yeah, what a great marketing thing, eh? Mm. Although once you had so many of them, you didn't really need more.
Yeah.
So after that, it was a waste. Too. But
Yeah.
So if you're still, hats off to you if you're still using your bacon fat. Some people didn't even refrigerate it; they just put it.
Left
it by the stove.
That's what I did because it did get thrown out. I didn't really cook with it, but I know a lot of people cook with it, right? Because it gives a really nice flavor to the food, but it's obviously not too healthy.
We were talking about refrigeration, and it makes me think about the fact the other night we had ketchup out on the counter.
Yes.
And I was wondering about the fact that in restaurants they don't refrigerate ketchup.
They don't.
I don't know if anyone's ever thought about this
Sometimes
before.
They do, but
but I mean, you think about the big vats of ketchup that they have in fast food restaurants.
I think the only time that they don't do it is when it's on the table when you sit down, and it's in that little basket, that wooden basket of everything, like mustard.
Oh, you mean the packets? But
I mean the bottles, the bottles.
Oh yeah.
So that's when I think that they don't refrigerate it. Otherwise, I think it's refrigerated.
There must be something that those little packets magically do. It must just the seal must be just so intense that even Hellmann's mayonnaise doesn't, because I've seen Hellmann's mayonnaise packets and they how do they not spoil, or do they keep them? Maybe they keep them refrigerated.
I don't know. Yeah.
We've gone on a long time about this. I'm realizing.
But when you buy mayonnaise at the grocery store, it's not. It's
that's a good
not
point.
Refrigerated.
Until you open it,
it's neither's ketchup.
That's true. So
Anyway.
it's that opening, that unsealing process, that little tiny bit of air that can
Refrigerate when open after.
and maybe
open.
also, I guess, it has a chance for a little bit of bacteria to get into it, and that's when it starts to grow. But I actually, because we were talking about it so much, I had to go and get our bottle of ketchup and look at it, and it does say refrigerate after opening,
Yeah.
which is what we do.
It's
I think a
what
lot
we
of
do.
times as people, we refrigerate more things than we need to.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that we remember from way back in the 80s. Well, that's what I'm thinking, 80s. You know.
Well, I guess that's when you and I
how far we're going back.
were kids, right? So that's primarily the
Yeah.
80s age.
Yeah. What are some other things that we remember nostalgically from
I just
our
remember
childhood?
plastic on everything. Plastic coverings on furniture and left on lampshades. My grandparents always had
Ever?
plastic covers on there.
I was never subjected to that.
No? Do you
Special
remember the
kind of
plastic
hell.
cover on kitchen tables? So you'd have like your cloth tablecloth and then a
I do
clear
remember that.
plastic cover.
I do remember that.
That would,
yeah.
when you'd wash it with the dishcloth, it would stay wet forever, and it was super yucky when you put your arms on it.
Yeah.
And I just remember that being in everybody's house.
Yeah,
It was
I do remember that.
I guess so you didn't have to wash your cloth.
And usually it was like a red and white checkered tablecloth underneath a clear plastic
Yeah,
thing. For me,
that's-
anyway, if I remember correctly.
We were just plastic fanatics in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Drinking from the hose was something I did regularly.
Drinking from the hose.
No, I don't know if you did living in the city. Jeff grew up in the city, and I was more of a country gal.
Yeah.
So I remember that distinct taste of if you didn't let the water run long enough and it had a little bit of a hose taste to it.
Yeah. little calcium deposits.
It's
and
sure that whatever that
flecks
hose
of
taste
metal.
was, yeah, it probably wasn't a great thing for my system. But when you're super thirsty on a hot summer day and you run that hose, good stuff.
I've never really experienced that one. I do remember though jumping through sprinklers when I was a kid a little bit more than
yeah.
ever. You know what I mean? Like, and they were really kind of makeshift sprinklers too. I remember at one point there was like a hose that was like had a big elastic, so it stayed on, and then it went through like a piece of plastic that had holes drilled
Right,
into
and
it.
it would go back and forth.
And it would go back. But no, this one was like homemade, like 'cause
it was
it was
like
just
with
like homemade, like
PVC
you know,
pipe or something,
like an old
more
piece.
plastic.
No, it was. I think honestly, I think it was like a 2-liter plastic pop bottle that you put the hose in, put the elastic on it to turn it on, and drilled the holes in so that it came out.
Oh,
the
you
top.
were full on
MacGyver.
ingenuity in the
That was
in
a
the
huge
city.
show, MacGyver, in the 80s.
Well, and we still use that today.
Mm.
Like, I'm gonna MacGyver that up.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, television in general was completely different back in the 80s when we were kids. I mean, it was an event to get up in the morning before your parents and
Oh yeah,
watch
Saturday
cartoons.
morning cartoons. I knew exactly what cartoon I wanted
I know,
to watch at
me too.
9:30
Yeah.
when Scooby Doo was coming on, when the Gummy Bears.
Chili Willy. Do you remember Chili Willy?
I don't.
No, that's going a little
It doesn't
bit.
really sound like a
far
kid's
back.
show.
I know that's the name of the. That's the name of the.
This is when I have to turn from the mic, so
I know.
I'm too loud.
I know. It's funny. Chili Willy. I know.
I remember
it's funny.
Fraggle Rock.
And Woody Woodpecker and
Was Fraggle Rock though was on at
Fraggle
odd
Rock.
times, wasn't it? Like I don't remember it as a Saturday
Speed
morning
Buggy.
lineup. I think it was like on at times that were. Mm-hmm. Was it a Canadian? Was it mostly Canadian Fraggle Rock?
Oh yeah, it was all Canadian. I do believe it was a Canadian show. Yeah.
Okay, I just remember it being on a different time, but
Remember
I loved
Kid
it.
Video? Do you remember that show? Kid
No.
Video? No.
No, did we grow up in the same 80s?
Yeah, Switchback, which is
No,
like
you always bring up Switchback, and
Yeah.
I never remember it.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was like a variety show in the mornings on Saturdays for kids. And it would have like old black and white Batman episodes that were just, you wouldn't see them really anywhere else. It was really interesting.
I remember sitting on shag carpet to watch my Saturday morning cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
and I would my mom and dad would have
Had a party.
played records the night
Right.
before, and I would spend time putting dad's records back in the sleeves, and I got to know the labels of each of the records, and I could, I knew which one
That's
went
awesome.
in which sleeve, and
You could do that here. We could get you right to work.
Yeah, where are you going to pay me a good.
I'll pay you 10 cents a record, sure. Just
wow,
like
the price has gone up since the 80s.
Why? What was it in the 80s?
I can't recall, but I don't think
5?
it was 10 cents a record. That's pretty rich.
I mean, why is it? Let's talk about just the main reason or some of the reasons why we don't do some of the things that we did in the 80s anymore. Case in point,
Well, before we do that, I have to make a confession of something else I did during Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, what?
This is probably one of the worst things that I did, aside from when I peeled the wallpaper off in my freshly wallpapered room.
I've done that.
It's just so satisfying to peel things off.
Yeah.
But it was, we had a wooden arm chair and I used a corkscrew. And I sat at the chair while I was watching television and turned the corkscrew into the arm of the wooden chair.
And you did hole after hole?
I did hole after hole.
Wow.
I don't know what the heck I was thinking.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I know. And
you probably had some
that was not a good
angst.
That was not a good Saturday morning.
Yeah. So your folks, once you did one hole, I'm sure they were like, oh whatever, do the Woody Woodpecker to the hole.
No, they weren't. But they left the corkscrew out.
No, but there was all kinds of shows. Do you remember when you were a kid and not Saturday morning, but like, like Wednesday at like 7:00, there was a show on that you were allowed to watch if you were good. And mine was The Dukes of Hazzard. And if you rewatch that show now, it is crazy.
Yeah.
It's not a kid.
It's not appropriate.
It's not a show for kids. The only reason why the Duke boys don't have guns is because they're on probation, so they use bow and arrows, and they have the Confederate flag on. I remember trying to draw the Confederate flag when I was a kid, not having any idea what it meant. This is like
those Duke boys.
Those crazy Duke boys.
Bow
I know.
Duke.
I know. Anyway, that show and
the TGIF lineup. I feel like. Maybe,
Star Trek.
I feel like TGIF came from that lineup, but maybe it didn't. Maybe that existed before the shows.
Yeah.
Streetlights coming on. That was a big thing. I don't know whether kids still do that or not. Maybe they do when they
got to come in when the streetlights come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember having that as an order.
Well, yeah. Now, even in the city, you did that?
Yep. We did.
Okay.
Yep. I was I was a free range kid when I was a kid. Like I was all over the place. Like
free range.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
But in the country it was different than, living in the city.
There's different ways of doing it these days, though. I've heard of people having like really close knit communities, and then everybody's on a Facebook group, and they can keep an eye on all the kids, so they let them be free ranged in that community.
Well, they're all sitting in their houses, glued to their phones, monitoring their kids.
Yeah. Whereas when we were kids,
might as well be outside watching.
When we were kids, like as long as we were home by dark, our parents didn't have any idea where we were. Mine didn't.
No.
And it was fine.
They knew I was vaguely in the area, probably in yelling distance.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
It was different times, though.
It was.
I don't know if, kids weren't getting snatched out of yards. Do you remember putting glue on your hands in class?
No, you mentioned this one to me, and I didn't. I don't think I ever did that.
It was so satisfying. You take the Elmer's white glue
and
put a really thin coating on your hand.
You have a thing with peeling things.
I guess I do.
Yeah, because
I wasn't the only one who did this, though.
Putting holes in things and like being overall destructive. I don't understand.
But you let the glue dry and you just peel it off like dead skin.
I mean, I have done that.
Puts the lotion on its skin.
But I don't remember it being a thing. I have done that just like, once maybe, but I don't remember it being a thing, I remember these crazy sissy tests. Do you remember those when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
And they would you would scratch a hole literally through your skin, and then it was like someone else would do it to you, I think. Or they'd
lick their finger and put it against your forearm,
and there was notes that come home from the school saying to the parents, like,
we did horrible things. I wonder if our kids do that.
I remember going to school.
We just don't know about it.
With my lunch in a bread bag.
Oh, really? Well, you had bread bags on your feet to keep your feet
dry, bread bags
right?
in my feet for like when my boots or my shoes got holes in them. I'd have bread bags in my feet so my feet wouldn't get wet.
I did have I had a plastic lunch box with a thermos that I never used. I don't even know why they came with a thermos, but but no, I didn't have the bread bag lunch, but I did have moon boots.
I had
where
moon
you had
boots
and
as
the
well.
lining. Every time you took them
Oh.
off, the lining would come out with your foot. But it was a great way to dry the lining.
Yeah, I
I
do
think they were
remember
called
that.
moon boots.
I do. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I do remember having boots like that though, where you could literally wear the liners and it would be warm.
Right.
They were that warm.
I guess they had like moon boots too that were like a toy that felt like you were walking on the moon. But I'm
Yeah.
just talking about regular old winter boots that had the linings that always came out.
Yeah.
I remember frying bologna and having like bologna and mustard sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
And just a lot of gross food that
Corned beef,
it was
hash
delicious
browns.
then, but it's not something that I would ever think to eat
Yeah.
now. But and I'm sure there's some people who still love it. I know we mentioned to some friends and they were like, "Oh yeah, I still like some good fried bologna," but
Oh yeah.
it's just something that I haven't had. I don't have a taste
I think we
for
ate
now.
all kinds of weird. I remember.
Fluff. Do you remember fluff?
I remember going out all day. Yes, I do remember. I never really.
And have like a
we never
fluff
had
and nutter
fluff.
which is like fluff and peanut butter.
We had a
on
very,
sandwich.
shall we say, like not so ornamental when it comes to like special foods when I was a kid. Like we had two kinds of cereal that we always bought, which was cornflakes and Shreddies. No like, sugar coated sugar crisp or anything like that. Just like boring boring cereal. I mean, we got used to it and enjoyed it.
Did
We
you put milk on it?
We put milk and sugar on it. You had to
Oh
put
yeah,
sugar
I
on it.
remember putting sugar on like Shreddies and
It's the only thing that made them delicious. Really.
yeah, we would have like a white
Otherwise, it was bland.
sugared bowl and we would sprinkle
Yeah.
the white sugar on. Now I did have some of the sweet cereals that I would just eat dry on a Saturday morning in a bowl.
No, I
Fruit
never did
Loops
that.
or Captain Crunch was really good, although it went soggy fast if you put milk on it. Yeah, there was some. I know they still have those cereals now, but my teeth hurt just thinking about them.
I remember.
Sometimes I'd mix them up too and have two different cereals in a bowl.
There you go.
Blasphemy.
I remember going out and playing with my friends for hours and hours and hours and hours, and then like me and maybe 4 or 5 of the friends I was playing with would run into my house and drink all the Kool-Aid and then go right back out.
Oh yeah, Kool-Aid. Just these
Kool-Aid.
powder packets that we would dissolve
Yeah.
in water.
That's what we drank, more than water.
Oh
more
yeah,
than
it was all
straight up
these
water.
just packets of
was
I don't
just-
know what.
Yeah, just flavored water.
Sugar and
Sugary water, yeah.
yeah, and some food coloring
Anyway.
in. We would dye our hair with Kool-Aid when we got into teenage
I should start
years.
doing that again, I'm almost 50. I think I should start just running around the neighborhood, come back in,
I thought you meant
drink a
just
bunch of
drinking
Kool-Aid,
Kool-Aid.
meet all kinds of cool people in the neighborhood and bring them back and come on everybody, let's drink some Kool-Aid.
I would love that. I'd love to have I'd like to have friends over and just bring out a great big pitcher of
Kool-Aid.
What were they called? I'm trying to think of some of the flavors.
Oh, there was all
I mean,
kinds.
there was
Fruit
just grape
punch,
and cherry, but they had some unique
cherry,
names
fruit
for
punch.
some of them.
They had High C. Do you remember High C drinking that?
Yeah, like Sunny Delight.
Sunny Delight, yeah, Sunny D and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, they were super acidic.
Super, really, really sweet, super sweet.
Oh, they were almost like syrup. I was thinking about paper. Like I was thinking about the fact that in our newspaper we used to get a TV guide.
Oh yeah,
And that would be
Remember the
how
TV
we'd
guide.
figure out what was on. And
Yeah.
then you would really look at the lineup ahead of time and decide what you were going to watch. And it was always a bummer when like two of your favorite shows were on at the same time.
yeah, I do remember that as well. I mean, what are some of the shows that you watched like regularly on TV when you were a kid? I watched like Who's the Boss and
Full House, Cheers,
T.J. Hooker,
Cosby Show.
Cheers, Cosby Show, yeah.
Those are sort of the ones that everybody would talk about afterward,
Yeah. For me, it was Dukes of Hazzard. And, do you remember, I mean, this isn't
Switchback?
in the evening. No, there was, there was a show called Just Like Mom that was on.
yeah, and the kids would make these awful things and the mothers would have to eat them.
That's right. They have to guess which child
Put
made
ketchup
it.
and everything.
And then my friends and I at the time, we always said, like, if I was on that show, I would just put a bunch of sugar or a bunch of flour.
Right,
And then
you'd
that
have
way she
one
would-
distinct ingredient that would be your code for your mother to know.
Do you remember the main prize you could win by spinning
No.
the wheel? A trip to Disney World.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a huge prize.
Yeah, and then the other prizes was like, prizes for mom and prizes for kids, like, a
I don't
a
say
mixer.
Like
or
of
like,
course, something
yeah. Mm-hmm.
for the house is the mother's prize.
Yeah. Oh, it was a. Oh, and there was this other show. Do you remember? What was the name of that show? The Funhouse. Do you remember that show?
Yes, I do. Remember
Funhouse, where all the goop would come
they
down.
would get slimed.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
And they had to go through all these crazy labyrinths of like mazes and stuff in order to, and had to do it by a certain time limit. And if they did, they got to spin the wheel.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Funhouse. That's so funny. I remember the name of it.
Reader's Digest was big. I don't know if a lot of people are still getting that, but my parents always had Reader's Digest, and it had the greatest short stories in it.
Yeah.
And it was...
we almost made it to one.
That's right.
When
I think we've told that
yeah,
story
we did.
on another podcast.
We don't need to tell that story again.
There was remote controls with wires on them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The earliest versions that came just after we had to actually physically get up and turn the channel. But then we would record everything. Do you remember trying to record things on VCR tapes?
Yeah.
Or off the radio on a cassette tape?
Oh, I remember recording stuff off the radio all the time. At one point, actually, I remember calling the radio station to ask the DJ not to talk in the beginning of the song so I could record a really good version of it.
Did you really?
I did.
And did he...
He laughed. He just laughed at me. Whatever, kid. Hung up.
But did he do it?
Yeah, I think he did. Honestly, he did. And it was like a ridiculous song. It was like, it might have been like Bon Jovi or something, you know? It's funny the different things that you listened to way back then and thought was awesome.
Do you remember
and don't any longer. Do you remember what?
Do you remember the spoon collections everybody seemed to have on their...
Yeah, and stickers.
Well, they had the collections of all the tiny little spoons from everywhere.
Yeah.
I know quite a few of my
People
friends'
still do
parents
that,
had that. I think a lot of the stuff some people still do, and I'm not, it's just the things that stick out to me do you remember the giant spoon and giant fork that a lot of people would have in their kitchens?
The wooden ones? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're kind of like
now
we have these kitschy sayings on signs and things that people put on their walls.
You're right.
I feel like that's the 20, like the 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
What year is it? Version of those big
and those spoons were on like fake walls. What are they? What was that called? It looked like wood, but it wasn't.
Oh yes.
It was anyway. Whatever. Maybe our listeners will let
wood
us know.
paneling,
wood paneling or something. Yeah.
I don't know. There's probably a better name for it. If you're enjoying our talk and reminiscing around 80s and 90s, make sure you check out our episode 39, which is 80s to 90s flashback too for more nostalgia.
Right. This is just more of the stuff that we kind of remember personally from when we were from way back.
And I think the reason we decided to do this episode is just, we wanted to do a lighter episode this time around, and our 80s and 90s episode was actually one of the most popular. It's one of the most downloaded episodes that we have. So we figure people like that content, so we wanted to do a little bit more. Do you remember everything around phones? I was at work the other day, and we actually did a 3-way call using our cell phones.
Oh.
And that made me think about the fact that used to be something that we would do. We would do these 3-way calls.
Well, didn't they have something called a party line? I don't remember exactly how that worked.
That was a little bit older, and with
how did that work though? Because
multiple
it was mostly
people use the same phone line, so you'd have to pick up, and if somebody was already using it,
yes, that's what it was.
So when it would ring, it would ring to multiple households or multiple. I think it stuck around in cottages and camps longer than households, but.
That's something that we used to do. I just thought of that. Like when we had phones in our home and not like cell phones, whenever a call came for somebody. So usually we had 2 phones in the house, one upstairs and one down in our house. And if a phone call came for somebody, you would say, "Okay, pick it up." And then they would pick it up, and then you would hang up your end.
How did you answer the phone?
We don't do that.
Were you like McLennan residents?
Hello. Always just hello.
Okay.
Why? Why would I say McLennan? McLennan residents, how can I help you?
Oh, no. I was just checking to see how formal you were.
Not very. Just hello, honey. Just hello. You had me at hello.
But you didn't say hi. You said hello. Well, that's a bit formal.
Of course not.
Well, then
who answers the phone and says hi? Hi. Hi, how you doing?
Then there was call waiting. Then there was
call waiting.
Star 69, which is to find out if you missed a call, or Star 77, which you'd punch in so that people wouldn't know who was calling. So if you wanted to do prank calls and
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
No, but wasn't Star 69 to find out who called?
Yes, if you missed a call and find out
if
who
you
called
missed a call. And then there was answer machines where it's like you made your own Did you have one of those?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What kind of message did you do? Hi, this is
It was
a message.
incredibly formal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I
And
can
I
imagine.
did tell people to leave the message after the beep.
Did you? Yeah.
Seinfeld recently did a bit on that around the fact that why are we still telling people to leave a message after the beep? Like, people figured out that the beep is when you leave the message.
I know.
But, there's so
We
many
still say,
messages. Yeah.
leave a message after the beep.
Velveeta was something we had, and there was a special. So Velveeta was a soft processed cheese that came like almost in a brick, and it made the best grilled cheese sandwiches.
They still have Velveeta, but
and
they
we
have
had
them
like
in
a
slices.
special cutter just for it. Like
the
it had like a thin
we used to
wire
have
and
one
a
of
roller.
those. Yeah.
Like, it's weird that they would
Used to
make a
have one of
product
those.
and then you had to have a special cutter
Yeah.
just for that. I'm sure the cutter came free with a package at some point, and then everybody just had them.
Yeah. Yeah, the Velveeta still exists, but not in big chunks like you're talking. I don't think. I mean,
Did you
now
ever
they've got
have
Boursin and stuff, you know?
did you ever have a sticker book and trade stickers?
No, but I did hockey cards. I had hockey cards and traded them.
What about marbles?
But
Did you have
I
marbles?
was into marbles. Yes, I was.
And then I lost my marbles.
And then I remember...
Get it? I actually, all my marbles melted. I think I may have told this story on another episode, but I left them on my friend's porch, and they had a barbecue fire, and an extreme fire burnt the side of their house, and it melted my marbles.
Wow.
I did lose my marbles.
You did. You lost your marbles.
And that was the end of marbles. Do you remember making cinnamon toast where you would sprinkle sugar and cinnamon directly on the toast? Oh.
No. Don't remember that one.
It's awesome.
I
think
remember
I might have
molasses
to make that again.
and peanut butter sandwiches. I do remember making them.
I never mixed it with peanut butter, but that sounds
it's good.
I just remember having like homemade bread with butter, and then you would dip it in molasses.
Yeah. I don't remember that. I remember having a lot of peanut butter and jam sandwiches.
There's
If I was hungry,
a lot of sugar flying around. Oh,
and
I
it
love
wasn't
peanut
summer,
butter and jam.
it would just be peanut butter
And
and
it never
jam
had to be
sandwich.
refrigerated.
No.
It was the best lunch.
Well, the jam did, hon. You had to refrigerate the jam.
Well, no, but when you made the sandwich, you didn't have to worry about it like going rotten like you would with an egg salad sandwich or something.
No, yeah.
Or like a flake.
Yeah.
Do you remember flakes of ham and flakes? I'm sure people are still eating that too.
Canned, it's one derivative short of cat food, I think.
I think it's pretty close. It has the same scent.
Yeah.
I remember going to banks and filling out slips to make deposits or withdrawals.
I remember that
Like, you
too.
would stand in line and have to fill out the paper, and then you would have your little banking book that you would give them, and they would update it.
I even remember paying for things with cash. Can you believe that?
I did that today, actually. I'm looking at our desk, and I have these little hand warmers that are from Japan.
Yes, our friend Alex gave. Yeah.
And I thought that they were, he was moving, and he donated them to our cause because I have really cold hands all the time.
Yeah.
And you plug them in and heat them up, and I thought they were gimmicky, but they are truly awesome.
They
I don't
really
even know
work.
if they exist here in North America.
Does it
but
still stay
Japan-
warm when you like unplug that, or do you have to have it plugged in?
No, it charges, and then you're good to go.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Literally good to go. You
Well,
can
that's got
stick them in
nothing
your
to
mittens.
do. Well, before that, in the 80s, you just wore mittens.
That's right.
And you got cold hands.
That was
I
a
remember almost
complete
getting
aside that-
frostbite a few different occasions.
It gave actually no value to the listener, that little story that I gave. Do you
No.
remember having fondues?
No, I never had a fondue in my life.
Oh, we had an oil fondue one time, and my uncle came in and grabbed a fork straight out of the fondue pot and put it into his mouth and pulled it out, and like part of his lips came with it because it was burning from the hot oil. I don't know what he thought, if it was like
Jeez.
he heard us say fondue, and if he thought it was a cheese fondue or a chocolate fondue. Where
I'm sure it wasn't fondue that he yelled when he did it.
No.
Maybe it started with an F, maybe.
Started with
But
an F. That was a bad thing. But we would eat fondue, and it was so much meat.
yeah.
It was just, and it took so much time. We had more time back then, I guess, to sit around open flames and boiling vats of hot oil and wait for our little bits of meat to cook.
Yeah.
But it was always fun.
Never done. I thought fondue was. Oh no, wait. Isn't there?
Well, there's
chocolate.
There's chocolate fondues
and
now that you
fruit?
like, little fountains and things. But the traditional fondue was like oil and.
What do you remember, listener? Let us know.
Yeah,
Let us know what you listen-
and hours of soap operas.
remember.
I debate whether or not we're binging for the first time with Netflix and streaming. I think people binged on soap operas. They dedicated an hour of their day.
I think people still
5 days a
binge
week.
on
Just if they got a program.
I just remember. I remember watching it like, secondhand. Like my mom maybe watched it, and I remember one character named Cass, and that's all I remember.
Oh yeah, Another World.
Was it Another?
I think it was Another World with the Loves.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could be wrong on that, but
yeah.
I hope you enjoyed our trip down memory lane. Lame. There was a Freudian
memory
slip.
lame.
We were lame this episode.
Was this podcast lame? I hope not.
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you could relate to some of them, and if not, I hope you got a laugh anyway.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.
And remember, you can catch up on past episodes at infoquench.com.
Or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And help spread the word about InfoQuench.
Till next time.